Never thought I'd reveal this, yet life has a knack for plunging you into the unforeseen. I am Margaret, 64 years young. 4 years I've navigated the challenges of motherhood, raising my son on my own. Daniel is 22 now. We've shared everything. Two souls navigating the storm together, lifting each other through every high and low. One night, everything changed. Daniel's weary eyes spoke volumes as he whispered he felt unwell. He had been pushing himself, studying relentlessly. Then, unexpectedly, he was offered a chance to rest on my bed. It was a chilly night in our home, and warmth felt distant. I draped the heavy blanket over him. At first, it felt ordinary, a mother caring for her son. As I lay beside him, his warmth enveloped me, drawing him nearer. He sought warmth, and I brushed it off until he rested quietly beside me. And for a moment, it reminded me of the years when, in calm, I urged myself to retreat from the overwhelming closeness. But then his hand brushed a strand of hair from my face, igniting a storm within me. A simple gesture, yet it pierced my heart, leaving me in a whirlwind of unexplainable pain. My eyes fluttered open, and there he was, gazing at me with a tenderness that pierced through the air. His face was so near, every detail vivid. The tiny freckles, the soft curve of his lips, the way his eyes sought mine, filled with unspoken emotions. His gaze held a vulnerability that mirrored mine, revealing his own sense of being lost. We were both caught in this moment, suspended in silence, as if time had ceased to exist. A storm of questions raged within me, doubt clawing at my thoughts, yet my body remained frozen. I was captivated by him, this child I had nurtured, yet he seemed like a stranger, just as I believed we would remain suspended in that silence forever. Daniel pulled back, shattering the spell. He averted his gaze, a hint of embarrassment flickering across his face as a shaky laugh escaped him. Rubbing the back of his neck, I was jolted back to that moment. Realizing the depth of our closeness, the weight of what we had shared, it crashed down, overwhelming. May inhaled sharply, battling the overwhelming tide of emotions crashing within her. I prayed he hadn't seen the storm raging within me. "Sorry, Mom," he murmured, his voice trembling with doubt, each word heavy with emotion. I never intended for it to become awkward. He looked away, and for a fleeting moment, I saw a blush touch his cheeks, a hint that he was struggling too. Overwhelmed by my own chaos, I stood paralyzed, desperate to reassure him that all was well, that this tension altered nothing between us. Yet the words eluded me. I stood still, paralyzed, caught in the weight of unspoken words. In that fleeting instant, a shocking truth hit me. I had never felt more alienated from my own son. I reached out, my hand on his shoulder, a silent plea for comfort in the chaos. A faint smile flickered on my lips, a fragile attempt to cut through the tension. Yet anxiety coiled tightly within my words. I wanted to reach out to grasp why this felt so different, but before I could, it slipped away. "Pose a different question." He turned and walked away, heading to his room, leaving me in silence without a single glance back. Silence enveloped us, and the soft click of the door shutting behind him echoed like a finality on a conversation that had barely begun. Beauty stood frozen, a whirlwind of relief and confusion swirling within her. An unsettling feeling gnawed at her, as if something vital had been left unsaid. She stared at Daniel's closed door, her heart weighed down by an indescribable loss. Something had changed between us, an unspoken tension lingering in the air. Something unspoken lingered, heavy and electric. As my mind replayed our moments, the way we once were, he closed in, his gaze lingering just a moment too long. With Stephen gone, the tension lingered electric and heavy. I retreated to my room, collapsing onto the bed, thoughts spiraling. I couldn't escape it. The shift between us demanded confrontation, and I knew it was only a matter of time before we had to confront the truth. But I felt lost, unsure of how to begin unraveling the threads. A sudden knock at the door shattered my reverie, pulling me from the depths of my swirling emotions. Hope ignited in my chest, a sudden spark that made my heart race. Perhaps it was Daniel comes back to speak. "Come in," I called, my voice steady, though my heart raced. The door creaked open. He stood there, that familiar, unreadable expression on his face. He stepped inside, sat beside me on the bed, hands folded, gaze locked on the floor. The silence between us, Daniel shatters. It hangs thick and heavy, a burden of everything unsaid. Too much to endure. The moment was heavy, yet undeniably essential. At last, Daniel shattered the stillness, his voice a fragile whisper. "Mother," he started to speak, each word a fragile choice weighed with meaning. "I don't understand. I'm sorry if I made it awkward. I just—" His voice faltered, frustration etched on his face as he fought to find the words for feelings that eluded him. I reached out, my hand on his, a quiet reassurance in a gentle squeeze that spoke volumes more than words could convey. "Daniel, is it really okay?" I spoke gently, my voice unwavering, even as doubt churned inside me. "We're both feeling lost, just the two of us for so long. Complications arise, and it's heavy. Is it all right to feel lost?" He nods, eyes locked in a haunting gaze. His hands trembled, eyes lost in shadows, a heavy gaze that pierced my soul, igniting a deep ache in my heart. After what felt like forever, he finally lifted his gaze to meet mine. His gaze held a storm of anti-emotions, uncertainty, frustration, longing, and an unnamed intensity that felt profoundly different. It wasn't merely frustration or confusion. In his eyes, in that fleeting instant, I wished I could reach out and bring us back to simpler times. When comfort didn't feel so complicated, I longed to hold him tight, to whisper that everything would be all right, to promise we'd face this together. But doubt gripped me. Would my comfort truly help, or only deepen the chaos? His needs were a mystery, and I questioned whether my urge to comfort him was the right choice. I stayed silent, letting the weight of the stillness between us echo with unspoken truths. I sat heavy with unspoken words, tension crackling in the air, waiting for the moment to shatter the silence. At last, after endless moments, I inhaled sharply, examined my reflection, and faced him head-on. I gazed into his eyes, desperate for a glimpse of his truth, sensing the weight of what he sought from my Leanie. "Perhaps it's time to pause and deeply reflect on it all." I sighed, searching for the perfect words, a delicate dance of comfort and empathy. Closeness is comforting, yet solitude can be essential for clarity. Whispers of the mind. We don't need all the answers now. He nodded slowly as if the weight of my words was sinking in. But then, in an unexpected movement that caught me off guard, he leaned. He leaned his head on my shoulder. And though the gesture was familiar, the silence between us felt loaded with everything unspoken. There was a tension beneath the surface that I couldn't ignore, a quiet recognition that things between us had changed in ways we hadn't fully understood. Yet my heart softened at the touch, and without thinking, I wrapped my arm around him, pulling him close in a way that felt protective and comforting. It was an embrace that offered safety, even though I knew the questions lingering between us were far from being answered. There was so much unspoken, so many emotions we hadn't fully processed yet. But in that moment, I realized that maybe we didn't need all the answers right now. We could take it step by step, figure it out together. even if the path ahead felt uncertain and complicated. As we sat there holding on to each other, I felt a sense of quiet calm wash over me. There was a soft, unspoken hope that lingered in the air, that no matter what we were facing, no matter how difficult things might seem, we could still find a way through this together. We stayed like that for a while, wrapped in silence theme. In that moment, the quiet between us brought an odd calm, like two souls sitting in the ruins of something fragile for a brief moment. It felt as though the confusion and complexity of our situation might dissolve simply by being near each other. But I knew deep down that it wasn't that simple. The comfort of his presence was undeniable, but beneath that warmth, there was an undercurrent of unease, a feeling neither of us could fully shake off. After a while, Daniel pulled away slightly, lifting his head and meeting my gaze. His a serious intensity expression had shifted the comfort of the moment, giving way to a serious intensity. "Mom, I don't know what to do with all these feelings," he said quietly, his voice laced with uncertainty. "I don't want to make things harder between us, but I can't just ignore it either." His words lingered in the air, thick with unspoken tension, like a question that he didn't have the courage to voice. The weight of his silence pressed down on me, and his wallowed hard, my mind racing in frantic circles as I scrambled to find the right words. I opened my mouth, but before I could say anything, there came another knock at the door. We both jolted at the sound, startled by the interruption, raised, locking in surprise and uncertainty. The knock was firm, deliberate, almost as if the person on the other side sensed something was amiss and needed to break through whatever was hanging between us. A wave of nervous energy washed over me, and without thinking, I stood up and walked to the door. When I opened it, Stephen was standing there once again, his face clouded with concern, as though he had been weighing something heavy in his minis. He said, his voice laced with genuine worry, "Sorry to bother you. I just wanted to check if everything was okay. You seemed a bit off earlier, and I wanted to make sure you're all right." Hesitated for a moment, then glanced over my shoulder at Daniel. He was watching us closely, his expression unreadable there between us, charged with unspoken questions. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice, though it trembled slightly as he answered, "Thanks, Stephen. But we're fine just having a quiet evening." Stephen gave me a long, searching look, then turned his gaze to Daniel. His eyes lingered on him, thoughtful and probing before returning to me. He nodded slowly, though something in his demeanor suggested he wasn't fully convinced. "All softening, right?" he said, his tone softening. "Just remember I'm next door. If you need anything, don't hesitate." When he turned and left, I closed the doorway with a quiet click and leaned against it for a moment, gathering my thoughts. I turned back to Daniel, who was still standing there, watching me with an intensity that made Madam's skin prickle. His eyes seemed to pierce through me, searching for something, for the truth, perhaps, or for reassurance. After a long pause, he stood up, his movement slow and deliberate, and I felt my heart pick up its pace once. Again, the air between us felt heavy, thick, with all the things neither of us dared to say. He moved closer, and I braced myself for whatever words might come next. But when he reached me, he stopped, his expression shifting as though he were battling some internal struggle. Maybe we shouldn't push this, Mom," he said, his voice quiet, trembling just a little. "Maybe we need time to think." His words hit me like a wave, and I nodded, my own heart aching. With the same conflicted emotions he must have been feeling, I understood the need for space, for time to figure things out. "You're right, Daniel," I replied softly, my voice thick with the weight of everything unsaid. "We both need to think about everything. We can't rush this." Daniel nodded in agreement, and we stood there in silence, our proximity a strange mixture of closeness and distance, as if we were on the brink of something we couldn't fully grasp or control. It felt like an ending, but also the beginning of something new, something we couldn't quite define yet. As he walked slowly to his room, I remained rooted to the spot, wondering what the future would hold for us and whether we could find a way forward together or apart. Thank you for staying with us until the end before we say goodbye. If you have not yet subscribed, I invite you to press the subscribe button. Your support, even if it seems like a small gesture, means a lot to us and drives us to continue creating content with heart. Don't forget to give it a like if you liked what we shared today, as every interaction helps us grow and allows us to continue connecting with you through stories that matter. Thank you for being part of